so that we can be able to dispense of. So far, none of them has indicated. I've raised with the office of the clerk, none of them has indicated that he's not appearing. But we have decided to start with the one who is in this building, the CS for Labor and Social Protection. Yes, Senator Edwin Sifuna, what is your point of order?
Speaker, I wanted to seek clarification on whether the other CSs have given any time indication of when we can expect them to be here.
That's why I sent the Senator Sifuna that none of the CSs has indicated. Through communication. This from who?
From Treasury.
As we are discussing this is a letter from the CS Treasury requesting for rescheduling or appearance before the Senate. When is this? Honorable Senators, the CS for Treasury and Economic Planning, CS Honorable CP John Bandi Ngongo, his letter has just arrived, and he has said that the reason is that he is engaged in a critical meeting at the State House that requires his presence and attention. And also, he has not indicated when he will be appearing. He has just said, I look forward to engaging your esteemed House at a later date. That is the letter. And you know, I'm also very truthful, so I've read the content as it is. So I want to give a few senators maybe to interact with this communication. Yes, Senators Funa, continue and finish up.
Honorable Chair, in fact, that practice is something that you must not allow. There is no way a cabinet secretary can send a letter to you seated in the chair this morning. I am very shocked because you see, Honorable Chair, we woke up very early in the morning to come and attend this session. The question that I was supposed to put to CS Mbadi is a question that is over a year old. It has taken him less than 2 weeks to become a proper Kenya Kwanza cabinet secretary who has no respect for this House. Honorable Chair, we cannot allow this. Because we want to engage with these CSs. He cannot tell us, and I have heard in this House before, people saying that when Kibaki was president, if there was a matter before Parliament and another one before State House, the precedent was that you come and attend to the matters in the House first. I want to tell John Mbadi that this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable, totally unacceptable, when he has to show respect for this House. And in fact, it is worse that he was a member of Parliament. If he had just been plucked from the wilderness like some of the other people I see, maybe we would excuse him. But he is a member of Parliament. He has even finished 2 weeks. Honorable Chair, this is unacceptable. Respect for this House, and as of yesterday, there was already communication that he had confirmed he was going to come. Kwani these State House meetings just spring up on people like it is a surprise party. Honorable Chair, this is unacceptable. At the very minimum, he should have written yesterday and said he was not going to be able to make it. We have also other business to attend. Honorable John Mbadi must be called to order. This is not the John Mbadi I knew. I don't know what they have done to him. He used to respect Parliament.
Sorry, actually, I thought our visitors are not allowed when... I want to give our guests just 10 minutes, then we can do housekeeping. I have directed that our visitors here, the CS for Labor and Social Protection and his team, to give this House 15 minutes to interact with this communication.
There's a holding room just behind here. There's a holding room just behind.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I keep telling my friend Sifuna that if he wants to become a good legislator, he must not conflate issues. The point that he's raising is something that all of us on this side agree with. I have been on this floor severally, coming down heavily against cabinet ministers when they fail to appear before this house. But when he wants to leave it on record and say that John Badi has become a proper Kenya Kwanza minister who has no respect for parliament, I cannot allow him to do that, Mr. Speaker, because he's disparaging a cabinet, Mr. Speaker, and their ministers, while he's saying that there's a cabinet minister seated here waiting to respond to questions, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for Senator Edwin Sifuna to claim that a proper Kenya Kwanza minister has no regard for parliament? Can he table any fact, Mr. Speaker, to support his allegations, Mr. Speaker? Because otherwise, you reduce a very valid point to a partisan debate that is useless. We had a very valid conversation that we would have had about the presence or otherwise of ministers. But now he wants to distract us with sideshows, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, let us not be emotional on this matter. Actually, this is a matter concerning the whole House. This is a bipartisan issue. So, Senator Sifuna, maybe you can kill a record so that we can be able to move nicely, Honorable Senator Sifuna. No, I've asked him to clarify that bit so that...
You don't want me to speak? Honorable Speaker, I don't know what other evidence the majority leader would want tabled of disrespect of this House other than the letter that has been brought to you while you are seated in the chair. And the fact that he admits that we have engaged on this issue repeatedly, it is indicative of a tradition within the Kenya Kwanza government that they disrespect this House all the time. We have dealt with this issue more than enough times, Honorable Speaker, and the majority leader cannot gag me. You cannot gag me, Honorable Cheruyot. The disrespect is in that letter that has been brought this morning. We woke up here to do this job. Where is Mbadi? You can't defend Mbadi.
Have your seat, Senator Sifuna. Senator Enoch.
You know, Mr. Speaker, there are things you are saying that are difficult to implement. When you say people should not be emotional about this matter, it's difficult not to be emotional about what we have just witnessed. It is difficult, Mr. Speaker, to deal with a fact which is on record that a cabinet secretary expected to appear before a House of Parliament is writing to the Speaker while the session is on to say he cannot appear. And the reason given is in State House. Mr. Speaker, I will say two things and try to be not too emotional about it. One, Article 132 of the Constitution, functions of the President. The President is accountable to Parliament, the President himself, to Parliament. Article 153 of the Constitution, the Cabinet is accountable to Parliament. Mr. Speaker, those two articles read together place the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya at such a position that when you are required to appear before either a committee of Parliament or a plenary sitting of Parliament, then everything else must stop. Mr. Speaker, this is just plain reading of the law. And you know, when now I see my brother, my very good friend, the Senator of Gericho, who is also the majority leader, getting emotional and saying that Senator Sifuna should be taught a lesson. Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering, between Senator Sifuna and the CS for Treasury who needs to be taught certain lessons. Mr. Speaker, just allow me to finish. Mr. Speaker, this is a serious matter. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this is so serious. And you know what? Let us test our own powers and privileges as Parliament. Let us put that to test. Mr. Speaker, you can order the Sergeant at Arms or the Inspector General of Police to present the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury here today, this morning. Mr. Speaker, you know, we cannot say that Parliament has been disregarded, and every time that we are disregarded, then we permit those people that disregard the Senate to continue doing their things and doing bad manners. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, Senator Riot, you should not feel bad when Senator Sifuna says that the CS Treasury is learning bad manners.
Point of order, just a minute.
Oh, Savannah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the sitting of the Senate Business Committee yesterday,
What is your point of order regarding what is...
no, I thought you were giving me an opportunity
No.
to...
You are...
Sorry, I thought you had concluded.
You are very experienced member.
I am very
when
sorry.
you raise a point of order, you are standing on a point of order.
Speaker, I
So
thought
what
you had
is your
concluded.
point of order?
I thought you... Then I'll have my time if
Senator Ambua, conclude.
I'm able to catch your eye.
In less than
Mr.
a
Speaker,
minute.
you know, we defer to Senator Halwale, honestly. Surely, I was on my feet. And you're a leader in this house. Mr. Speaker, we are saying you should actually order Masengeli to bring the Treasury CS here in this house. The Speaker. Lastly, I was saying that, you know, when Senator Sifuna says that the CS Treasury is learning bad manners and bad behavior from the Kenya Kwanza administration, that is a statement of fact. That this administration is very ill-mannered. That's what it is. This administration has refused many, many times to appear before this Senate. And we are saying the CS Treasury should not go and, when he was donated by ODM to go and join the government, Mr. Speaker, they send him there to go and...
Unnecessary anxiety. So
Mr. Speaker, I'm just finishing.
we
If you
just,
bear with me 1 minute. Bear with me 1 minute, Mr. Speaker. Just bear with me 1 minute. These points of order, Mr. Speaker, they don't help.
To the point of
But what point of order on what now? What is out of order now?
There is majority.
Mr. Speaker, just allow me to finish. Just allow me to finish, Mr. Speaker. I have 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
There is majority, Linda.
You know, I was willing to allow these cheap shots to pass. But you have heard Senator Wambua repeatedly refer to me in his statement saying that I'm defending the indefensible. Yet, I pointed to Senator Sifuna that what better evidence do you need that Kenya Kwanza cabinet ministers respect this house, other than the fact that while he was making his complaint, there was a cabinet minister seated here. Therefore, you cannot generalize, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you can protect me from the hecklers, I can make my point, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator.
But what you are doing is heckling. What better way? Mr. Speaker, it is not a statement of fact what Senator Wambua and Senator Edwin Sifuna are stating, that Kenya Kwanza ministers do not honor summons to this house. I have demonstrated that there is one in the house this morning, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, if one minister fails to appear, Mr. Speaker, if one minister fails to appear, is it a statement of fact, as Senator Wambua is stating, that Kenya Kwanza ministers do not honor summons to this house? I think this minister is... Almost every cabinet minister has come to this house more than 100 times, Mr. Speaker. You know, half the time, first of all, the minority side began by boycotting this exercise. They never used to appear. Probably that's why they don't know that ministers have been coming to this house.
Senator, let us make progress now. And my 15 minutes are over. Can you conclude in 30 seconds? You are 30 seconds, Senator Ambua.
Mr. Speaker, I was saying, and I'll conclude, that when the CS Treasury was donated by ODM to Kenya Kwanza, I listened to the Azimio leader saying that they have been donated to go and teach those people how to do things. They are not supposed to go there and learn bad manners. They are supposed to go there and teach good manners, Mr. Speaker. So it should be produced here in this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Joyce Korir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also want to raise...
Majority Leader Senator Sifuna.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to also register my dissatisfaction in terms of the response by the CS, because, Honorable Speaker, the reason why we came this morning was because of the questions that we had, which are affecting the members of the public, which we were expecting the minister to respond to this morning. Honorable Speaker, I don't know whether we have the prescribed timeline when the minister is supposed to respond, whether he is appearing or not. Because it's so shocking that a letter is just being brought to the House during the time when the motions or when the questions are supposed to be responded to, Honorable Speaker. So it's really putting this House in a very awkward position. And I want to say that we need to set as a House. I don't know whether it exists, the time frame that they are supposed to respond. It's really so hurting. We came this morning expecting to get the answers. The very many questions that we have are being weighted by the Kenyans. And I want to say I am one of the persons who is dissatisfied with that letter that has been written by the CS this morning. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Fatuma Nduro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to join my colleagues in contributing to this matter. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to say much because much has been said, but this matter is not about a political party. It's about an individual member of cabinet who should take up their responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, I really feel frustrated because there is nothing happening in this House as far as summons or invitation of this House is concerned. Mr. Speaker, we either pack and go home or we take our matter seriously because things are not actually going through the right direction. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to bring a statement on the floor of this House. We have a governor of Isiolo who has refused to appear before all the committees of the House. He has even taken a committee of the House to court, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have our mortuary that is not working for the last 1 year. And I brought a statement to the floor of this House earlier this year, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we should put our acts together. Otherwise, we have no business sitting in this House. And this matter must be taken seriously, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Senator Modigi.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nataka kukosoa seneta wa Nairobi ambaye ni rafiki wangu. Mr. Mbandi sio wa Kenya Kwanza, ni sahihi tuko kwa serikali ya muungano. Kwa hiyo kupigia sisi kelele kusema yeye ni wa Kenya Kwanza, hiyo ni makosa kubwa sana. Ya pili, rafiki wangu, nataka nikwambie wakati ulikuwa apitisha cabinet secretary wao kuingia hapa, wewe ulikuwa umetimua, ulikuwa nje au kuwa unatuunga mkono. Ya mwisho ningetaka kusema Mheshimiwa Mbandi amefanya makosa kukuja hapa, angekuja tumuulize maswali kwa sababu unajua sisi kuko na ile pesa ambayo tunalipia wafanyikazi wetu, pesa ya usuru anja tulipa kwa kipindi ya miezi 3. County ya Embu saa hii wafanyikazi wote county ya Embu hakuna pesa ametuma hapo. Kwa hivyo angekuja hapo, hiyo ni ile swali tungeuliza. Na sio county ya Embu peke yake, ni county ya 47. Na wakati tulikuwa naendelea alikuwa anasema hakuna pesa, saa hii angekuja tumuulize swali. Kwa hivyo mimi naunga mkono Senator Mbandi aweze kuwa samoja kuja hapa ajibu maswali yake. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Muma Muyaka Kadri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak. I want to add my voice that it is not acceptable that the CS Treasury can elect to send a letter this morning. The questions we are asking the CS are questions that have been moved for over 6 months. We asked CS Ndongo these questions and he kept ducking them. And now the CS Mbadi takes them. We expect him to come here and resolve these things. Why do we have this session if asking questions should take a year to answer? All of you are celebrating this session, indicating that it will be useful. Why do we have it when it takes a year for a CS to actually respond? In this case, 2 CSs running away from responsibility. I think we need to take this seriously, and it is bad manners. You can call it whatever government you want to call it. It's your government. It is bad manners.
Last but not the least, Senator Murango, James.
Asante sana Mstahiki Speaker kwa kunipa hii nafasi kuchangia hili jambo. Ya kwanza niseme ya kwamba tunapokuja hapa, wakati tunakuja kukutana na mawaziri, tunakuanga na vitanda za kulala, tunakuanga na mahali ya kwenda. Hatukuangi tumekaa tu bila kazi ya kufanya. Wakati tumekuja hapa kufanya hilo jambo, na ukumbuke Mstahiki Speaker kwamba Jumatano zote hakuna kamati ambayo inakaa kukandili ama kuangalia jambo lingine lolote, kwa sababu tumetenga wakati muhimu kuja kujadili maneno kama haya. Wakati waziri ameitwa anakosa kuja, tunaweza mtetea, lakini hiyo si haki kwetu na si vizuri kwetu. Kama Senator Mondega anavyoongea, kama anajua pesa ya Embu imechelewa kwa muda ya miezi 2-3, angejua leo kama yeye mwenyewe anajali masirai ya watu wa Embu, sio kutetea mwenye hakuja kujibu maswali. Hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba hata yanaridhika na hali ilivyo katika kaunti zetu zote 47. Kwa hivyo ningesema ya kwamba sisi pia tusiende chini kwamba sisi tutakuwa tu tunakaa chini kama watu hawana kazi. Tukiita mtu na aji, tuwe na sheria ambayo itakuwa inamfanya awajibike kwa maneno ambayo amefanya. Kwa muda kumekuwa na madharau ya mbunge ya seneti na wale ambao wameteuliwa kutoka mbunge la kitaifa. Na mimi nadhani ya kwamba huo ukosefu wa adabu hautachukuliwa kupelekwa katika na mawaziri kuja kutudharau wakati tunaita kuja katika nyumba ya seneti. Niyo tu Mstahiki Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Murango and all those who have expressed their dissatisfaction. From where I sit. No, the time is over, the 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Onda, Senator Kavindu, onda. Senator Kavindu. I was saying that it is not in Onda from where I sit to receive a letter and actually communicating that all the CSCs are indicated. None of them had expressed that they will not come to this session this morning. But it's not in order to just receive a communication from the CS when the session is on. And therefore, senators, we cannot be lamenting every day in, day out. I would like to have a bipartisan manner in this issue so that both sides can revoke standing on the 51D, which says that the Senate may, where a cabinet secretary fails without reasonable cause to appear and respond to questions on this part, move a motion to censure the cabinet secretary. So we should not be just weeping, crying, and we have our explicit authority under 51D. Therefore, I think we should take that direction. I've been the last session also, of all the cabinet secretaries, let me also say that it's only one cabinet secretary who has let this house down. I want to disagree with those who said cabinet secretaries don't appear. But the CS Treasury, even last session, did not appear to answer questions. Therefore, this time around, I really request that both sides, you sit and agree on the way forward on this matter. This house belongs to all of us, not to one side of the divide. Therefore, on these things, such matters, let us approach these matters in a bipartisan way so that we can move our house forward. We have no other Senate in this republic. We are the elected 67 senators who are in this house. So if we fail, all of us will fail. If we succeed, all of us will have succeeded. Therefore, now I request the Sergeant at Arms to bring in the CS for labor and social protection. I want to welcome you, the CS for Labor and Social Protection. So that you can answer these three questions. One from the Senator for Machakos County. The other two, the members who asked the other question is not Arambachare, I can see is around. So we start with your question, Senator Kavindu. So waziri, karibu sana katika Senate. Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to be able to ask my question. Let me first of all start by congratulating the CS for Labor for appearing here. And severally, he has appeared before the committees. But before I ask my question, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the CS Treasury has done very wrong because there is no money in the counties. We have not paid our offices in the counties for the last 3 months because of exchequer.
Senator Kavindu.
Yeah, I'm coming to my question, Mr. Speaker, but I needed to say that.
Yes, Alfred Mutua is not the CS for Treasury.
I know
Just
that.
asking his questions.
I was only commenting on what we were commenting before. I'm done. Now I'll ask my question, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Honorable CS, this concerns, my question is, could the ministry consider collaborating with the Sifuna? Well, let me ask my question, please. Don't interrupt me. Could the minister consider collaborating with the consortium of the 7th August 1998 victims to identify and enroll surviving Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi into the social assistance program currently being implemented in the ministry and by the ministry?
Thank you. CS.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members. I'm very happy to be here and thank you for the question. Before I start, I just want to say that I'm accompanied by my two principal secretaries, PS Mwadime of Labor and PS Motari of Social Protection, and Mr. Kasses, Senior Deputy Labor Commissioner, and many other CEOs and MDs, NEA and others. We've come, the whole team. To get to the question, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say the following. Yes, we are considering, and this is something that we're working on, the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection met with the officials of the victims Tumaini 1998 on 18th October 2023. And during that meeting, it was noted that there is need for the leadership of Tumaini 1998 bomb blast victims to provide a list of victims stating clearly their names, ID numbers, contacts, and their unique needs so as to support them. Because we needed to identify those who are genuine 1998 bombing victims. We also wanted to ensure that the process and eligibility criteria for selection into the Inua Jamii program, which requires certain exemptions to this group, may be to enable them to be targeted and enrolled into the program. And also considering that children of the affected bombing victims, the Presidential Secondary School Bursary program. Similarly, in addition to this, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities held a meeting with the representatives of the survivors on Friday, 27th October 2023. In the meeting, the team was taken through a detailed presentation of the Council's mandate and potential areas where the victims can be supported, including scholarships for disabled children, recommendations for tax waivers for persons living with disabilities, and provision of assistive devices, among others. It is noteworthy to mention that no list of victims, Mr. Speaker, has been availed to my ministry to confirm whether they meet the eligibility criteria for enrollment into the Inua Jamii program. I don't know where the failing is, but I think it's a very good question by Senator Kavindu, and I want to congratulate her for her care about this issue, because when I was the Minister for Foreign Affairs, we were in a session where she brought up the same a similar question concerning these victims. But let me repeat that so far, we have not received any information, eligibility criteria for enrollment to the Inua Jamii program with a list of victims that we can onboard. Mr. Speaker, the possibility of including the survivors into the social assistance program is very high. The State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizens Affairs within the Ministry of Labor and Social Protections implements 3 social assistance programs. One is the Inua Jamii program, which targets older citizens aged over 70 years and above, poor households taking care of persons with severe disability, and orphans and vulnerable children. When you look at the older persons, there is an older persons cash transfer. And as you know, our president directed that before his salary and the salary of ministers and public servants is paid, that the money is paid to our Inua Jamii recipients. One must be above 70 years old and a holder of a Kenyan national ID to qualify for the older person's cash transfer, and should have a caregiver with a valid Kenyan national identification card, and must not be in any government pension to avoid double dipping. Now, when it comes to orphans and vulnerable children cash transfer program, poor Kenyan households with any one or more of the older persons or of children, vulnerable orphans and vulnerable children aged between 0 and 17 years, or basically 0.1 and 17 years, is a permanent member. A household with a caregiver is chronically ill and unable to perform his or her duties, and lastly, a household not benefiting from similar social assistance programs. C, for those with people with severe disability cash transfer program, they are meant for a poor household with a person with severe disability who requires 24-hour care, a household not enrolled in a similar program, and a beneficiary who is a Kenyan citizen. In order for the victims, and I think Madam Kavindu Senator will agree with me, for the victims of the 1998 National United States Embassy bombing survivors to be included, they should meet the criteria, which is we should meet the criteria that has been given above, presented above. I would also like to point out, Mr. Speaker, that in the case, because this case happened in, it's been over 18 years now, since the bomb blast happened, and if there are children who are affected or were left behind at that time, they are now over 18. Therefore, they do not qualify at this particular time for any of the programs because they are above the limit of age given by the law. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kavidu, do you have any supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I just want to follow up from where he stopped by saying 0 to 17 years, and most of the victims are above those years. Now, is it their fault that they did not get the care that they needed until they are above the years? And what can be done for them to be compensated? Can they also? I'll follow up with the number, as you have said, and the ID numbers and the clarification. I'll follow up with the people concerned, and I'll make sure that they'll come back to you. But even as we do that, can they also be registered in the cash transfers especially the PWDs who are completely unable to do anything for themselves. Majority of them are blind, totally blind. Those should be included in the cash transfers, even if they are not at the age of 70. And the children also, the ministry should consider. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I want to give an emphatic yes. It doesn't matter whether you got injured during the 88 bomb blast, or you injured afterwards. If you are severely disabled in our country, you deserve to be in this program. It is not as comprehensive as it should be, and I'll work on it. On the second point, I really agree with you that we need to get these teams together, and I'm directing my principal secretary not to wait, but to organize a meeting to meet with the leadership so that we can also be proactive and get the lists, and working closely with you to enable this to be done. And whether you're below 70, above 70, and you're disabled, you qualify automatically, and there's a criteria of how you are tested at the hospital and you qualify. I wanted to add something that may be of interest to the House, and that is that currently, most members, you are aware, people go in the morning to pick up their monies from banks or agents. And they wake up in the morning, get a boda, get a car, they go a long distance, and they line up the whole day waiting to receive their monies, which is not fair. And His Excellency the President has been very clear about providing justice. You don't have somebody spending 500 shillings to come somewhere, spend another 200 to eat, and then you're giving them 2,000. Already the money is gone. So we are rolling out that want to roll out a program so that by the 1st of December of this year, we are going to ensure that now all the monies will be transferred to the phones or designated M-Pesa or other accounts directly of the recipients. So they don't have to leave the comfort of their homes, spend their money to go and wait for a whole day to receive the monies. We have to be a caring people, and we're going to ensure that that is implemented. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Let us have a few other supplementary questions, but just only one question. Senator Mandago, Jackson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I have one supplementary question to the Cabinet Secretary. That Honourable Speaker, during the 1998 bomb blast, there are allegations that there are a number of staff who are working for Cooperative Bank who are allegedly illegally dismissed from work following the injuries they sustained from the bomb blast. Is the ministry aware, and what have they done about it, Honourable Speaker, on that matter? And Honourable Speaker, just on what the CS has just commented on the transfer of funds, Honourable Speaker, I would like the Cabinet Secretary to let us know why is the ministry using banks, M-Pesa and others, and not Postal Corporation, a government entity that under the law and under their mandate, it is their responsibility to handle digital payments for government.
Yes, Waziri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's the issue of the staff working with a cooperative bank that were let go or working in that building. We are not aware. I've just done a bit of consultation. Maybe if they wrote to us, the letter got lost somewhere. It's not in my office. I would request, Mr. Speaker, sir, through you, the Honorable Senator, we can have a conversation and we can see whether they are organized, and they can file a complaint with us, and we'll follow up to make sure that they get their rights. They are under the law, because people shouldn't just be dismissed and then they are not compensated properly. On the second question about Postal Corporation, we carry tender processes whereby banks were onboarded to be able to transfer the monies, and the contracts are coming to an end, and so Postal Corporation is welcome to participate in the next round, even as we move into a digital fora using the technological companies rather than just the banks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kadri Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome, CS. My question is on the system that the ministry has put in place to ensure equitable access to social protection. Mr. CS, I would want to know, given that the Constitution requires that all resource in Kenya is equitably accessed by those who need, what mechanism do you have in place to ensure that, one, the correct people are the ones receiving social protection in this country, two, that where there might be deficiencies in the resource, that we can still confirm that it is equitably distributed among those who need to access it. Where can we get that register as members of parliament who carry out oversight to ensure that truly those who need to access social protection are the ones accessing social protection? I would want to know and access that resource.
Thank you, Honorable CS.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you very much. In terms of equitable access to social protection, there's a system that has been working, and we can always improve on it. We go to the ground using the government system, and we're able to identify those who deserve to be in the system in terms of age, in terms of disability, very, very poor families, vulnerable families, and we are able to put them in the list, and they go through the criteria and they are onboarded. When I served as the governor of Machakos, the issue of older citizens saying that they have never received their monies kept on coming all the time. So it's an ongoing system of onboarding. In terms of being able to provide the list to you, this House and the Parliament of Kenya passed a law on data protection that does not allow us to provide private information of people's names and where they are to you. However, as a member of Parliament and member of Senate, if you have identified individuals in your county that you believe have been left out, have not been covered, please send me that list, and we'll double check to see whether they are being covered, and we'll ensure that if they need to be covered, we'll make sure that they are covered, so that we can't assume that we know everything on the ground. Number two, we also have cases that we're dealing with, and this is whereby some of our older citizens pass on to glory, and they're no longer here, and maybe their caregivers are still receiving some of the monies that they were receiving. So we are working on streamlining the system to ensure that that money is stopped so it can go to others deserving. And also, we'll need your help if you identify somebody has passed away and that family tells you, or you know that the caregiver still received that money, so that we can be able to work together as one country, supporting each other as members of government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader, Senator Mazaya.
Asante mstahiki Spika. Mstahiki Spika, nataka kumuuliza waziri kwamba je, waziri anaelewa ya kwamba wale wote ambao walipatikana wamekuwa na majeraha, waliumia wakati wa ile kitendo kilichofanywa na waliofanya kile kitendo pale katika nyumba ya ubalozi ya Amerika tarehe hii, walioumia pale ndani wakiwa wa Kenya na wale wananchi wa Kiamerika. Je, waziri ana habari ya kwamba wale waliokuwa ni wa Amerika wote waliweza kulipwa fidia zao za kuumia na majeraha na wakapelekwa hospitali na wakaangaliwa vizuri sana na serikali ya Amerika? Kwanza
Nitamwomba Seneta Kavindu asikize ili swali vizuri kutoka kwa kiongozi walio wachache. Hilo itakuwa kwa manufaa kwako sana.
Sija kupata Bwana Spika.
Endelea.
Asante. Bwana Spika, vile vile nataka kuuliza, je, ni juhudi gani ambao yeye kama waziri na wizara yake ikiwa husika, ni juhudi gani zinafanywa na serikali? Kwa sababu mimi nilikuwa Amerika na hili jambo nililifuata sana, lakini utaona ya kwamba zile pesa bado hazijapatikana za kuweza kulipa wale wa Kenya. Ni juhudi gani wizara yake inafanya kufikia hivi sasa kuona ya kwamba zile fidia za zile pesa zilizotolewa, manake Amerika wametoa pesa, lakini sasa wa Kenya mpaka hivi sasa bado hizo pesa hazijawafikia. Ni juhudi gani wizara yake inafanya kuona ya kwamba zile pesa zilizotolewa kuweza kuwalipa hawa waliopata majeraha zinaweza kuwafikia?
Waziri, jibu swali la Seneta Mazaa. Swali singine huwa kinapita.
Siku. Samani Mheshimiwa Spika. Shukran sana Senator Mazayo kwa swali lako la kina kabisa. Je, umeuliza vizuri kwamba tunaelewa kwamba kutokana na jambo hilo, tukio la ugaidi mwaka 1998, wale walioumia walikuwa basi wa Kenya na Marekani. Umesema kwa kweli ya kwamba wale wa Marekani walilipwa, lakini wa Kenya ukasema hawakulipwa. Hili ni swala ambalo nilifuatilia nikiwa waziri wa mambo ya kigeni na hata kwa mikutano tofauti na Senator Kavindu na wengine tukiangalia. Najua ya kwamba tulipofikia hivi sasa kuna kesi ambayo inaendelea kule Marekani, na pia kuna juhudi za wizara ya kigeni kuendeleza kuona kama inaweza kuthibitishwa na kupitishwa na bunge la Marekani ndio waweze kulipwa. Kwa hivi sasa sina uhakika hiyo kesi imefika wapi. Naomba Senator Mazayo na waheshimiwa mnipe nafasi niweze kumwandikia barua ndugu yangu Musalia Mudavadi aweze kutupa nafasi ama aweze kutupa habari na tuweze kufahamu tumefikia wapi kwa wakati huu. Lakini pia nitaweza kulikaza na kuangalia vile tutaweza kujadiliana na hawa walioumia, tuende vile tuwasaidia. Wakati wale ambao hawajapata zile pesa wanazopaswa kupata zainua jamii, ambao watakuja kumuona katibu wa ofisi yangu, wale nimeongea kuhusu mambo haya, basi tutaweza kuwatajia mambo kama hayo pia, naweza kufuatilia kwa sababu ni haki yao. Damu ni damu, iliyomwagika iwe ya Mwamerikano iwe ya Mkenya, bado ni damu. Kama wengine walilipwa, kwa nini hatukulipwa? Kama kuna Wakenya walilipwa, tujue ni wengine walilipwa, ni wangapi walilipwa na wangapi hawakulipwa. Niweze kufuata haki ya wananchi wetu. Hiyo ndio kazi ya serikali, kufuata haki ya wananchi wao. Asante sana Mheshimiwa.
Senator Murago James.
Asante sana Mstahiki Speaker. Kuna swali ningetaka kuuliza waziri, kwa sababu serikali yetu ndio huwa inasajili watu. Serikali yetu ndio inatupatia hati ya kuzaliwa. Serikali yetu ndio inatupatia kitambulisho. Serikali yetu ndio inatupatia pasipoti. Ndio inatupatia hata hati ya kifo. Wakati mtu anapokufa, serikali yetu ndio inatupatia. Inakuaje hamwezi chukua takwimu ambazo mko nazo katika mitambo mulio nayo siku ya leo, kujua mtu ambaye anafikisha miaka ambayo anastahili kupewa pesa yake ya uzee, mpaka mrundi tena mtumie fedha za umma kwenda kusajili watu na mko na kila kitu? Haingekuwa rahisi kama, kwa sababu serikali iko na kila kitu, mtu akitimiza ile miaka bila kusajili tu mnaanza mnachukua kama ni akaunti yake mnaanza kumtumia pesa zake moja kwa moja kuliko kusumbua wazee na vilema, waliozeeka na kila kitu mko nacho. Kwa nini mna kazi inafanyika hivyo? Ni nini hamna ya kufanya hiyo kazi ili iwe rahisi kwa kila mtu? Swali la pili.
Ni moja tu, Senator Murango.
Nataka kusikanisha mstahiki speaker. Ni moja, ni line moja.
Naomba Senator Joyce Korir pia ulizo swali kwa sababu ya maswali yanafanana yote. Ndio ajibu pamoja kwa jumla.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to ask the CS. This is an active case that Honorable Gavindu has been following up between this country and the United States. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to know whether the ministry has the exact number of the victims and what is their age bracket. And if so, how many have benefited from any programs that the country is doing right now in terms of stipends to people living with disability or the vulnerable in this country? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
CS.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Swali la kwanza Senator Murango ameuliza vizuri sana kuhusu tuna takwimu hizi zote za kuweza kumtambua Mkenya, na vile tumefanya hivi sasa katika mkondo huu wa digitali, tumeanza kuchukua hayo majina kutoka kwa Wizara ya Interior na kuweza kuyaweka katika ratiba ambayo inafaa. Tayari umeona kwa magazeti tumeongea kuhusu kuna vijana wasichana wanaitwa enumerators, wanaenda chini kuthibitisha kama hawa watu wako, wengine pengine wameaga dunia, wengine pengine walihama. So pengine mzee alikuwa anaishi kule Meru, watoto wake wako Nairobi, Mombasa, wamehama kutoka Meru, wamekuja Mombasa, wamekuja Nairobi, hawako tena upande huo, ama walienda nyingine, wengine wameenda kuwatembelea watoto ng'ambo, kuthibitisha kwamba wapo, ndio kwa mara moja tunaweza kuwaongeza hao ambao wamefikisha miaka hiyo. Kwa hivyo ni jambo ambalo tunaendelea, ni jambo tulianza hivi majuzi, Mheshimiwa Senator Murango, na jambo ambalo tutaweza kulifanya liwe thabiti kabisa kwa siku ambazo zinakuja. On the second question by Senator Joyce Korir, yes, I agree with you, it's an active case. And unfortunately, the way it has worked for all those years, it was not being handled by my Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. It's been handled clearly as a foreign affairs issue. So for a long time, it was handled as a foreign affairs issue in terms of the number of victims, because we're dealing with a foreign country. But it is now an issue, as I've said, we are ready to onboard, and we'll be meeting the leadership of the victims, and we see how now we can regularize what should have been done about 18 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I'll request now on the same question. With 30 seconds?
Yeah, please. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thought, Honorable Speaker, when the cabinet are meeting, they always discuss issues that are cross-cutting. Because this is a very serious issue. We are talking about the country that have paid its people, and our people have not been paid. Failure because of the way we are handling issues and the way we are handling our data. Is it true that the ministries that we have in this country cannot coordinate to make sure that things are done the right way? To an extent that as we speak today, the Ministry of Labor has to go a long way looking for the list. Yet in the actual sense, we have the list with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Can we get to know the exact number of the victims? And what has the country done in terms of making sure that these people issues have been addressed? Thank you.
If I can give some guidance, you know the CS and he didn't know you request that list when he came here. So maybe you can give the ministry time to compile that data and then to provide it to the Senate, to this House. But where he sits, I'm afraid he cannot be able to give the list now. But he can be able to work on it. And then number two, the question by Senator Kavindu is not now on the compensations. It was specific on whether these people can be recruited in the ongoing programs, like OVCs and the older people. So if Senator Kavindu wants a substantive question, you ask substantive question on compensation of the victims. I know the ad hoc committee that you chair is handling this matter. Therefore, you descended to go the ad hoc committee way, but if you want that substantive answer, as the CS said, you will consult the CS for Foreign Affairs to know exactly where what is the position. Maybe I request then you do that substantive question to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yes, so maybe that will solve all these issues. Therefore, I wanted to go to the second question, but the Senator Kavidu, you under the second supplementary question. Executed, then we go to the next question by Senator Samson Chalgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My second substantial question is, Honorable CS, those with severe disability who need 24-hour care are also eligible to be enrolled in the persons with severe disability. What are you doing about those ones? And just a follow-up with the question that, Senator Mandago asked. Honorable CS, you say that you are not aware of the people who are working with the cooperative and Mwalimu Sacco, or Fundi Sacco. And the CS who left before you came in, we had called him at the ad hoc committee and we raised all these questions, and he was with his team, just like you are with your team today. And I believe there is no vacuum in government. So you should be aware of that question, because we asked them last year actually, and they were there. So they should give you an update so that you can answer. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I do believe, Mr. Speaker, Madam Kivindu, thank you for the question, that those ones with severe disabilities and anybody with disability, and I call upon this House and Kenyans, if you know a Kenyan somewhere who has disability, who is suffering, and they are not in this program, please let us know. Let the chief know, and I'll speak to my colleague, Minister of Interior, so guidance is given. Up the chain, let us know. Let them talk to the MCA, talk to members of parliament, either to the MP or the senator. Let me know, and I can assure you I will take action immediately, because, we are this country. Some people cannot just suffer as if, they are the wretched of the earth, and others are doing well. The second question about, and I'm well guided, Madam, about the question that was given to my predecessors, and so I will follow up and will provide as much information as we can. Thank you for that guidance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. Question number 051. Senator Chalgei, can you ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I raise pursuant to Standing Order 51C.
I will give you the opportunity. Let him proceed with the...
Mr. Speaker, I raise under Standing Order 51C 6. A cabinet secretary shall appear in person on the day of which the respective question is listed for response. One shall respond to the question. That is B. C, may, with the permission of Speaker, make a statement. Mr. Speaker, I'm raising on Standing Order 51C6. Because, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what happens when a cabinet secretary comes with a half-baked answer or a kindergarten-like answer against the responses at the, and it is Mr. Speaker, in the response, he has indicated that they are attached. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Using unparliamentary language.
Okay, when he comes with unsatisfactory answer, because the response I have received, Mr. Speaker, said there is no list attached. And even in the response, I was given not within 24 hours that you have, Mr. Speaker.
Can you ask your question, then you prosecute your issues first?
Okay, Mr. Speaker, but I want to register my displeasure by that response. But let me ask the question, and you will realize, and the members will realize, Mr. Speaker, that no justice was done to this question. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 051 on the following. To ask the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. One, what are the roles of National Employment Authority, NEA, in the recruitment of Kenyans seeking job opportunities in foreign countries? And could the Cabinet Secretary state the requirements to be met by a recruitment agency permitted to operate by NEA in the country? B, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of recruitment agencies cleared by National Employment Authority, and what steps are used to ensure that all companies registered under National Employment Authority Integrated Management System, NIEMIS, are monitored and regulated. Mr. Speaker, Part C, could the Cabinet Secretary also provide a list of Kenyans who have successfully applied for jobs in the diaspora following the numerous agreements between Kenya, for example, like the other day with Germany and other nations, and including the countries that are deployed to avoid misinformation. Mr. Speaker, finally, what is the status of the investigations into the operations of Messrs. Worth Star Africa Limited, an agency operated by one Pastor James Wanjohi that reportedly defrauded Kenyans over Kenyan shillings 600 million with a promise to assist them secure jobs abroad? And could the Cabinet Secretary state the plans, if any, to compensate these victims, the Speaker? I thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Cherengai, for your question. The role of the National Employment Authority in recruitment of Kenyans for jobs in the diaspora is well stated in our documents. It is, and I'm going to go through them quickly, to advise on the formulation of employment policies and strategies for national and county governments, facilitate the employment placement of job seekers internationally, and facilitate the implementation of national policies on employment. There is also a secretariat to the vetting committee, licensing and accreditation of private employment agencies, regulation of the activities of private employment agencies, collection, analysis, and dissemination of labor market information, building the capacities of private employment agencies, sensitizing and advising job seekers, handling complaints from job seekers, promoting ethical recruitment, and cancelling the registrations of an employment agency that fails to observe the provisions of the existing laws and regulations. The requirements to be met by recruitment agency to be permitted to be operated by NEA is in our website, which is www.neaims.go.ke. But I've also listed them here for Senator Cherengai. There's an application letter for registration, a certified copy of the certificate of incorporation as a limited company, company articles and memorandum of association, company CR2 for the current year, must have a minimum share capital of 5 million shillings, a copy of a county government license, show that you are operating legally, company tax compliance certificate for the current year, registered and fully equipped physical office with the prescribed sizes. A company director must also submit a copy of his or her or their IDs, 2 passport size photos, current police clearance certificate, a valid work permit in case of any foreign director, certified academic certificates, which must be certified by the Directorate of Quality Assurance of the Ministry of Education. Company manager must also submit the following documents: a degree certificate in business-related field from a recognized university in Kenya that is also certified by the Quality Assurance of the Ministry of Education, an appointment letter to work for that company with clear terms, and a copy of an ID. Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that the process is heavy, that you really need to qualify. And these are very many requirements. You need to qualify because we need people who are in this industry and we need people who are valid. That's why we ask all these questions, all these documents, including a visiting of the space where they work to ensure that it is not a briefcase company. And then you're given your document. The second question about vetting by interministerial vetting committee. An interministerial committee vets all private employment agencies seeking registration and renewal of licenses. It consists of the ministry responsible for labor, immigration, internal security, foreign affairs, and the AG. During the vetting, the applications made by private employment are looked at, And making the independent recommendations approval or non-approval is also deliberated. In other words, it is not enough for you just to provide the documents. It's not enough that you qualify. Yes, we take you one step further. Yes, you may qualify on paper, but should you, in terms of national intelligence, are you a crook? You know, have you been bad somewhere else? Are you working with other people? Are you, we go further to ensure that the vetting weeds out the bad people. And the vetting, from what I've learned, is that out of the people vetted, about 30 to 40% never qualify, even though they had the documents. So it is a real operation to ensure that we get the best. So the government here does its job. After approval, you pay a full registration fee, and then you have to be a member of a recognized association of private employment agencies, because we need somebody also to keep on monitoring you, so that when you go rogue, they're able to tell us. And then you execute 1.5 million security bond to the bank. This is for people who are engaging in foreign recruitment. Mr. Speaker, sir, tomorrow, sidetrack just to add to this, I'll be holding a meeting, a follow-up meeting with the recruitment agencies that recruit for people in Kenya and mostly for overseas. We had a meeting about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago where we deliberated about how we can work together. How do we cut the bureaucracy? How do we identify the crooks? Where is the problem? How do we reform National Employment Agency? How do we reform the National Training Institute, NITA? How do we reform the Labor Ministry to ensure that it is current in terms of the needs of the market? And so we've been holding meetings, and even after this session, I'm going to hold a meeting with my staff to deliberate on new regulations and new policies that we will announce tomorrow after we've had this public participation with a team to streamline this industry, to toa wakora, and to ensure that it is efficient. The list of recruitment agencies cleared to operate by NEA can also be found in our nims.go.ke. It is current. Some fall out every day, some are added every day. So if I can give you a list today, and tomorrow you say, how come this company is no longer in the list, or how come this company, because it is alive. As we sit here, there are others being onboarded, the others being removed. And it even shows you the ones that the licenses have expired and who are in the process of renewing. One of the things that I'm going to announce tomorrow is about the duration of time of the renewals. The country has been crying, the recruitment has been crying that the renewal of every year doesn't work very well, because by the time you organize yourself to get people to organize, take them abroad, your time is gone. So we are going to look at how we can extend the time and how to make it easier for people to be able to register and work within the system. The question number C, the list of Kenyans who have successfully applied for jobs in diaspora, including the countries they are deployed. We have attached a list, and it's presented here, Cabinet, of the lists of the Kenyans, and we hope that the list will grow now that we are trying to make this as efficient as possible from the Ministry of Labour. The status of investigation to the operation of Miss Worth Start Africa Limited. This is a case being handled by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. I will be holding a meeting with the senior leadership of the DCI. They told me that they are working with close to 1,000 cases of fraud, of Kenyans who've been defrauded, and action will be taken. On the supplementary question that was asked by Senator Chirangaya, whether the ministry will compensate the victims, the ministry does not engage in defrauding, but the person who defrauds, if they are found guilty, arrested, charged, if they are found guilty, then I think part of the requirement will be for their assets to be taken and compensation to be done, not just for them just to have time, but they need to repay back the money that they stole from innocent Kenyans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Senator Chalagai, do you have any supplementary question?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Not point of order, but it should go on record that the Cabinet Secretary is misleading the House. You know why? The list is saying he has filed through the Secretariat. It's not there. So why is he playing with the minds of Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, we are serious people. We don't work up here to come and joke around. If the CS cannot take his work seriously, Mr. Speaker, he should be sanctioned, because the issue Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, have been conned daily by fake recruitment agencies, Mr. Speaker. So I find it a disrespect to this House that a whole cabinet secretary who is not new to come before the Senate and mislead the House, to mislead people who have sat even in cabinet, including Senator Onyonga, who was assistant minister, Mr. Speaker. Is it even fair? The cabinet secretary must, Mr. Speaker, apologize to this House for lying, Mr. Speaker, not lying, for misrepresenting, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chalgei,
Number two, Mr. Speaker.
Just have your seat for
Okay.
some communication. The Secretariat is following up on this list to check whether it was attached or not. So before you make those allegations, let us first confirm. You know, Senate is House of Records. We confirm first, and then you can maybe comment. But what I want to do is to ask the Secretary to confirm whether this list was attached, and also your officers also to counter-check whether they did it. But meanwhile, you can ask your supplementary questions.
Mr. Speaker, and you have to note that unless you struck off the answered, because in his response, the CS says he has attached. So I hope the Secretariat will strike out that part of the answer so that we don't mislead Kenyans. One question so that I allow other colleagues, I'll come later for mine. Mr. Speaker, you agree with me, and this is my first supplementary question. No wonder Kenyans are conned daily. Because if the Cabinet Secretary cannot provide a list of cleared recruitment agencies in the country by telling Kenyans to go to website, how will be somebody in Machakos, somewhere in Tala, have an internet? If the CS could come and table the list of all recruitment agencies, those who have been blacklisted, is it hard, Mr. Speaker? How will his grandmother somewhere in Makweni in Wote know from where Mr. Kafuluka comes from, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it must be even my own grandmother somewhere in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, even in Bomet, how can they go to website? No wonder, Mr. Speaker, everybody is gone. Can the CS, Mr. Speaker, even in Meru where you come from, can the CS table the agencies that have been cleared to do recruitment, that have been blacklisted, Mr. Speaker, that are pending clearance? Then I can have satisfaction of my response to us. Otherwise, if it doesn't table, Mr. Speaker, then we are gerrymandering with the lives of Kenyans.
Senator Chalgei, you know the one went in digital a long time ago. And that is why I think in that spirit, the CS is maybe requesting you to just click on the website and get the list. Because the one has gone digital on so many things. Do you have a smartphone with you? Do you have a smartphone? We can test this website, whether it is working. No, I've just asked you a question when is it.
See, I thought I should go on record. Mr. Speaker, this is not about Cherargei, it's about the ordinary Kenyans in Kibra who don't have smartphones, Mr. Speaker. How many Kenyans today have smartphones? Even in Meru itself.
Senator Chalgei,
it might be 1%.
Because this is your question. I'm just asking whether you attempted even to click on the website. Did you try?
I am asking on behalf of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker.
It
is the Cabinet Minister, Mr. Speaker, to provide information. Even in Nandi, the people who can access smartphones across the country are less than 1%, Mr. Speaker. So it is not fair, Mr. Speaker, that you allow the CS to slide with.
No, the CS will answer your question, but I was just asking you a supplementary.
No, I can prove, yes, but Mr. Speaker, I didn't get that information because when you go to website of NEA, there is no recruitment that has been blacklisted, that is pending approval, that is functional, including first choice recruitment agency, the worldwide, Mr. Speaker. So the point, Mr. Speaker, we are asking these questions on behalf of Kenyans. I'm not asking on behalf of Cherargei or my family or my other interests.
But also, Senator Chalgei, don't you know that also Kenyans would like to know whether you are able to use internet? Waziri, respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'd like to say that as far as I know with my records, I signed the list. I attached it, and it was delivered to Parliament. We'll follow up with my staff to see whether the people did the right thing. So I cannot say it is attached if it is not attached. As part of my answer, it was delivered. And so we'll check if there's any misnomer. My apologies, it will be given, but I believe the list is provided because I looked at the list, I signed it myself, and got it attached. Number two, Mr. Speaker, it is important, I want to say two things. One, Kenyans who are applying for jobs, applying for a job is a full-time job. If you want to apply for a job and you want to go and work in India, in Turkey, in Saudi Arabia, in many countries, if you're applying for a job, you do research about the job from wherever you are. And you may not have a smartphone, but you're a young man, and the Gen Zs who are applying for this, they have access. They can talk to somebody with a smartphone, and they can be able to look. What I want to tell Kenyans is this. Be very careful about recruitment agencies that come to your village and tell you they're recruiting you, and they want you to send you to overseas, and that you need to pay them some money to process your documents. That is why we have this list that is alive. And I know paper is important because the list I may even give you, the list I've given you on paper, has already changed because it is live. And in the words of US presidential candidate Kamala Harris, we are not going back. We have to move forward with technology. We can't continue going back on paper. We need to move forward with technology. So I do understand the challenges that we are facing. That is why the government is rolling out the digital network that is going to encompass basically every village in our country where there are schools. And so that we ensure that people can be connected and you can actually log in for free and be able to check. So I urge Kenyans, and they can talk to their leaders, to their senators, and I like the spirit Senator Cherangai has in protecting his people. Talk to your senator, talk to your MCS, say this person is recruiting me. Are they valid? So we can double check so that you are not conned. The other thing that I'm doing is that I want to work with the agencies in a way that if the agency, because the agencies are being paid a fee, a commission, that wherever it is possible, which should be about 90% of the time, they should not charge a Kenyan for any processing fee. So they absorb that as part of their cost, so that Kenyans are not defrauded, being told, pay this amount of money, we'll take you overseas, unauza shamba, unauza gari, unauza, all your savings, you put them there, and then you find the person is fake. So we want to get into a system whereby let them get access to financing, get their people all sorted, and then they'll be paid their fee. So it's a service they're providing. They don't need to charge the Kenyans. So we're working through that system to ensure that people get their right. So I urge leaders in this country to please also support us in ensuring we identify rogue ones. And the best way is to go into the internet, look at that live link, which keeps on changing every hour, to ensure that that person maybe say they are there, by a day or two, they have been removed. So keep on checking before you engage and sign documents. I submit, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Kadri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question to the CS is whether to confirm that the government has appropriate bilateral agreements that have safeguarded the rights of all workers being recruited to go and work abroad, in particular noting that a number of very vulnerable workers have ended up abroad and come back in coffins, and most of those are not the kind of person you seem to have in mind who goes to a website or who has a smartphone that would actually do the research that you are thinking of. Can we have copies of these bilateral agreements submitted to ensure that it has clauses that protect against malpractices, including retainment of passports of workers who go abroad, including retention of their salaries for months on end in the name of paying for their air tickets and paying for the agency fees, I would want to see how the government has protected. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to know whether the ministry has set aside a budget to actually sensitize those who cannot access websites and the lot that I'm speaking about by discussing these issues on radios, listing the genuine and the not genuine agents in order for the ordinary, desperate girl in the far-flung village in Dori who wants to go and work in Saudi Arabia is able to know that they are being conned.
Okay, yes.
Thank you, Madam Senator, for that brilliant question. It's a very, very good question. One of the things that we are doing and the reforms that I'm bringing that we'll be announcing tomorrow is a new way of training. We'll ensure that anybody going, and especially to some of these countries where these issues are, and they should undergo a training. And during the training, they'll be empowered. They'll be empowered with information about what their rights are. Your passport is yours. You should never give your passport to anybody else. You give your passport maybe to the agent as they are processing, but they give it back to you before you leave the country. Nobody should hold your passport. Nobody should hold your documents. We are going to empower them on how to get in touch with Kenyan government officials of how to protect for their rights so that they're empowered. I'm going to ensure that the system is streamlined, that before anybody leaves our country to go get a job, they know they can count on this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the question about the budget to sensitize, I'd like to say I'm even going to take it a step further. We can't be operating from Nairobi. Kenya is not Nairobi. I'm working on a program to go and visit basically all the constituencies, all the counties to start with, where we will have meetings with agents, with jobs, with programs of enlightening Kenyans, working with county governments, but also mostly with members of parliament, so that we can be able to empower Kenyans and give them the information. And we'll be able to communicate to media and vernacular stations. We'll be able to tell the stories that we are telling so that people are aware. And I'll even go a step further with the guidance given, whereby we are going to run adverts and communication programs to empower Kenyans. Not only about the challenges they face, but also of the various opportunities. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm currently looking at it this way. When I was on my way back from Germany, I met a number of Kenyans at an airport in the Middle East, and they are working, you know, security guards, others were working in hospitality. Then when I was there, I met a Kenyan who was coming back, said he works in that country as an engineer. So the jobs you're talking about are not just the household jobs that people talk about. We are talking about a data bank of hundreds of thousands of jobs that we want to accumulate for people who are journalists, for doctors, nurses. We have a demand for nurses, but we realize that nurses don't even know that they are needed, you know, and we are working on all this. There's a question I want to, Mr. Speaker, to reply, and that is the issue of depositing all our agreements. I'm going to ensure that this House has all those labor agreements so that you can also be able to scrutinize them. We are going a step further in our agreements. We are trying to ensure that our qualifications match those qualifications of those countries so that they don't have to go and retrain again, so that our job our qualifications are accepted automatically. We're also making sure that they are protected by immigration, and interior governments over there from harassment and also from being deported without being heard. So we are looking at all those rights. So we've learned our lesson over the last few years. I'm quite lucky, and I thank the President for putting me in this docket, because the experience I garnered as a Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora is really coming in handy, because these are not new things to me. Now I'm in the right ministry to correct all the problems that have been going on. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mofai.
The mic is defective. It's working. These innovations, Madam Speaker, I want to revisit the very first question that the CS was interrogating, and I want to know what is his ministry doing to make sure that the physically challenged people, you know, in some cultures, Honorable Madam Speaker, these people face some cultural stigma, such that they don't even come out to register for benefits, maybe in the government. What initiative is the ministry trying to undertake to make sure that these people are whipped into registering so that they can benefit from your ministry? Number two, Honorable Speaker, we have seen very old people travel to far-flung places in search of these benefits. What is the ministry doing to make sure that they devolve these services very close to the people who are supposed to benefit from those services? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS, you can respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think our Honourable Senator came a bit just got in. We've already tackled this issue, and I'll repeat myself. We talked about the physically challenged and how we are bringing them all aboard and how their families, and we've got teams on the ground. And I requested you that if a member of parliament knows somebody who is not in the system, not only the disabled, but also other vulnerable, children and the aged, to let me know, and we're going to handle. We had a big discussion, lasted quite a while on that issue. On the other one about the far-flung, I think I lost the final question about people far-flung places. I already made an announcement right here, and I announced a new policy that from December 1st, we are going digital. They'll get their money on their phone. So we had a discussion about that earlier before you came. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Onyonka. As Senator Onyonka is speaking, I'd request Senator Wafula to come in so that we move on to the next question.
Thank you.
Senator Onyonka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CS, Madam Speaker, I would like you to protect me because my colleagues seem to be consulting.
Honorable members, can we hear Senator Onyonka in silence, please?
Thank you. CS, I am happy to see you here today because I know you as a friend of mine and somebody I've worked with before. I'm actually going to ask a very simple question. If you remember when you started talking about the declaration of the provision of information, and you brought in the data protection law. When I walked in, that is actually what you said. You said that it's not possible for you to avail information so that we can know who has received social protection money. The reason for that, CS, is because the people of Kisii County that I represent have been asking me to give them the names of the people from the wards all the way to the sub-counties. How many people does the Kenyan government provide finances to or pay the monthly stipend to from all our wards and all our sub-counties? CS, I believe that the law doesn't stop you because essentially the argument you're making is that you cannot disclose that information, and I believe that could also be the clever way on how you're trying to justify and say that you can't give us the names of the people who have gotten jobs ever since the government started signing the bilateral agreements. CS, we want that list. The reason why we want that list is that Kenyans, we have a bad habit. When we are given an opportunity to look for things which we call Kenyan, we only share them with our tribes and our friends, our cousins and our families. That list is the one which will show the equity, the fairness and the distribution of those jobs that you are giving out there. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, can you please promise this House that you're going to provide that list, and it will be a genuine list, and it will be an honest list? Number two, And Madam Chair, I really got confused because when I came in, there was a wonderful question that Senator Kavindu had raised. And this had to do with the Kenyans because this is a matter she's held personally. The question I wanted to ask the CS is that does he think, and I could suggest that, Your Honorable, you could engage with with the Chief Secretary Musalia. Do you think, or don't you think, that as we sit in this house, that it is actually us as a country, we are busy complaining how the American government has never compensated Kenyans who are injured from the bomb blast which took place. But the reality is, it is our responsibility as leadership in this country to make sure that this house can pronounce itself so that even when the Americans are busy in court trying to figure out this issue, don't you think that as Kenyans we need to compensate our people who died and the people who actually were blown up during that bomb blast which took place in Nairobi? I think, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, we've been extremely irresponsible and casual the way we handle this matter. And lastly, I want to ask the CS, I hope you can...
Honorable Senators, you are actually supposed to ask just one question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will stand down, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
CS?
Thank you very much, Senator Nyonka, for your questions. In terms of provision of information, we have with us in our offices the payroll. And because it is important, and I totally agree with you, we don't want ghost people being paid. We want people to say, huyu mtu analipwa, atumfahamu ametoka wapi. I have no problem of any individual member of parliament in the National Assembly asking me, can you give me specific information, so that, because I can be able to give you that information, so that you can be able to double check and ensure that those people that have been listed are within your area, so that you can also help me also identify, maybe some have passed away and they're still being paid, others are moved to other counties and they're still being paid under the name of your county, etc., etc. The other question that you asked about we don't have a problem giving the names of Kenyans who have gone overseas on these jobs. We have the list. So usually what happens that we dispatch them here. Our job is to get them the jobs. They go overseas, then we let diaspora now, because once they get into the plane and cross the Ethiopian border going north or Tanzania border going south, they become a diaspora issue, even as we follow up. But we are now keeping tabs to ensure we know where each Kenyan is and where they work, because any Kenyan who is in distress is important to us. And I can also ask my senior and brother Musalia Mudavadi, PCS, to provide that information. On the issue of our responsibility to also compensate, I think that's an issue that Parliament can engage in and bring it up as an issue, and so that it can also be budgeted for, and with proper research. So it can be budgeted for and money is put aside for that form of compensation by the Kenyan government. But in the meantime, we are going to push for them to get their rights from the United States and other areas where they should be paid. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Senator Cherarke, your second supplementary question, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My final question to the CS. Bwana CS, there are ladies who have given birth in Saudi Arabia, popularly known as Kadamas, who have stranded children, and they cannot come back to the country because there is perception that it is child trafficking, yet DNA has been done to confirm that it belongs to them. What is the ministry doing to ensure that they are able, through the diaspora department, that they are able to come back home without having those restrictions from that country? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS.
Thank you very much. When I was in Saudi Arabia, I met families. I met a lot of single mothers with children born in Saudi Arabia. And I engaged the Saudi Arabian government, and they said that because of the issue of child trafficking, they cannot just allow a mother to just take a child and say, this is my child, and come home. Because they realize very quickly, a girl is coming home, another girl says, chukua huyu mtoto pelekea mama yangu. And the child never reaches, or it becomes like child trafficking program. Therefore, we agreed, and they have instituted a DNA system. So the mother undergoes a DNA with the child, and there's verification that this is actually your child. And then a permit is given for you to travel with that child and leave the country. Basically, they are protecting so that a mother doesn't wake up and say, my child is missing. And you look for that child, unakuta aliingia ndege na Mkenya ama Muganda ama another person from an African country, Nigeria, Tanzania, anywhere, na ameenda. And walisema na mtoto wao. So it's also protecting our children who are born in those countries, so that the mother knows that my child, hata akipatikana kwa barabara, hata toroshwa, apelekwe nchi ingine akauzwe huko, because a DNA will need to be done. So we worked on that, and now we have safe houses that are continuing being set up, so that when a mother is in distress, a child is in distress, there's a safe house where you can actually go and say, that is my child. That is, so there's an organized system to protect them. Finally, I'd like to say that, Madam Speaker, with your permission, I believe that the documents are already on your table that Senator Cherengai was asking about, that saying that we are not tabled. I think they have been found within the system over here. I submit. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator.
Madam Speaker, if I can answer that question that I overheard, is that
he wants to know how many children have come back.
I will. Yes, as I said, that is the forte of the State Department for Diaspora, which is under Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, because they are being processed overseas, and they are the ones with the records from the Ministry of Migration, Overseas and Foreign Affairs. So they'll be in a better place to be able to answer that question. Thank you.
Senator Onyonka, no, you can't. No. Was it a point of order or what? On what?
Been provided.
Senator Onyonka, I don't know how you would have a point of order on a list that we've not even discussed. Please, let's move on.
Madam Chair, the list has been tabled. Madam Chair, the list has been given, and that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And the list doesn't have individuals, and it just has numbers, Madam. There is no information on this thing.
Senator Cherarke, do you want to just speak to the list quickly?
Madam Speaker, when you table documents, the Senate has the jurisdiction of High Court, as you are a senior counsel in this republic. The CS had said in answer that he had attached the list, but what he has done, he has given us numbers. We don't know who these are. He has child in this country, so can we get a detailed list of what my question required, Madam Speaker, and I'll be grateful. I thank you.
CS, we expect that you will submit the list as was expected in the question. So kindly ensure that that happens. Please confirm that you will do that. Okay. We are requesting that the list be provided in the proper format. A list is not just numbers. So we are requesting that that happens within the next 2 days. Should be submitted. Can we now move on to the CS's next question by Senator Wakoli? Yeah. Senator Halwale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as you'll notice on your list there are a lot of interventions for people who want to ask further supplementary questions. Secondly, you have seen so far the answers provided are not adequate. I plead that you consider stepping the question down so that the minister can be given another opportunity to respond to these things. We have very serious matters on these bilateral agreements. Madam Speaker, Kenyans remember that African tribal chiefs allowed slave trade to thrive, and the reason was the people who are coming for our people wanted labor that was free. This time, they are looking for cheap labor. We want to interrogate these things, Madam Speaker.
Senator Halwade, you are prosecuting your point as you are speaking about procedure. There is nothing wrong with the procedure that we have. As Speaker, we manage the time. We have another question, and we have another CS in the waiting room with 8 questions. I beg that we consider that we need to do this. We cannot step down the question and assume that we just continue because of this question. But the next question is actually to the same CS. So you get opportunity in your supplementary to also prosecute the cases you wanted to prosecute, for those who will get the chance. Senator Wakoli, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have a few questions to put across. One, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status update on the payment of terminal dues to all former employees of the Pan-African Paper Mills Company Limited in Webuye, who are in employment at the time the company was placed under receivership in March 2009. Can I proceed with the other questions, Honorable Speaker, or one at a time?
The questions as you had sent to the
Number
Cabinet
2,
Secretary, please.
Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the reasons for the delay in payment as well as the projected timelines for the same? And 3, what is the government doing to expedite payment of terminal benefits of the former staff? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
CS.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Mheshimiwa Senator David Wakoli, for your question. My response is as follows. The termination of employment contracts of employees on account of redundancy of this Pan Paper company happened on 6th of April 2009, during the time the company was under receivership. In 2016, the ownership of the company changed when it was acquired by the Rai Group. Upon reopening of the company, many of the employees who served under the previous management were hired by the new management to work in various capacities, and which included the locals, and where for both outsource and co-establishment got to a total of 479 employees. All the workers were terminated on account of redundancy by the receiver with effect from 6th of April 2009. They received payment as provided under Section 311 of the Companies Act 2009 Cap 486, and which constituted full payment of the preferential element of the claims against the company for any arrears of pay, holiday pay, or notice pay. For more information, there is an exeter that we have attached, dated 6th of April 2009, paragraph 2 and 3. The State Department of Industry in 2021, using documents from the receiver manager, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers company, was able to recommend payment of 229 plus million as terminal benefits to former employees of Pan-African Paper Mills Company Limited. And that is also annexure 2. And also you can see there's attached a letter from the ministry in charge of trade. And so that's the first question. On the second question, whether the delay on payments, why have they been there, and the reason is as follows. The State Department for Industry, which was directed to pay, made a request for funds to the National Treasury in May 2021 and October 2023. In November 2023, just a year ago, the National Treasury requested the State Department for Industry to prioritize these funds in this new financial year and the next financial year in the sector working groups. However, due to the budget ceilings at the sector working group for financial year 2024-2025, the amount to be paid to the former employees could not be covered. That is also covered in Annex 3 of the documents provided to us to give to you. And that is where there's been a delay. So we're expecting that they'll be covered in the future, and maybe the Ministry of Trade can clarify further. The question number 3 was, what is the government doing to expedite payment of terminal benefits to the former staff? And the response is that the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, through the State Department of Industry, communicated to the National Treasury in December 2023, appealing for additional funds to enable them pay dues to former staff. And I want to say that, Senator Wakoli, this is a very good question, timely, because as a result of this question, this issue is now alive, and we've been able to talk to the Department of Trade, and so the file has moved up, and I believe they're working on it. They're working on it, and they're working with Treasury, so it has come up, so it is not forgotten. I submit, Madam Senator.
Senator Wakoli, you have 2 more supplementary questions. Do you want to ask them now, or do you want to give an opportunity to other members first? Or do you want to ask one now and one later?
But Chair, I can give members an opportunity to ask.
Is Senator Murango there? Senator Mbugua.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is related to question number 51, which the CS was addressing earlier. And the CS had told us that one of the roles of the ministry through the National Employment Authority is to facilitate employment and placement of job seekers internationally. In the spirit of promoting equity and fairness, can the CS clearly tell this House and the country these jobs the government, through His Excellency the President, the government is pursuing, whether they are being applied for, either through the government or through the agency, and the procedures to be applied, because the word out there is that some jobs are being gotten directly from the government and others through the agency. Can the CS clear that, please? Thank you.
Honorable members, actually the CS is supposed to be answering supplementaries in respect of this other question. I can see members had many questions on the earlier one. So I'll allow a quick response to that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just very quickly, and it's also good for the country to know that the system works this way. There are jobs in many countries, but our people cannot work in those countries because we don't have bilateral labor agreement that Kenyans can work in those countries unless they're employed by a company and they go through a process. So the reason we sign BLAs, bilateral labor agreements, is for them to be able to say, okay, out of the jobs that we want people to come and get visas for, we are going to allow Kenyans to be part of that list. So if the jobs are 100,000, so you know Kenyans can compete within those 100,000, others will go to other countries, but now the door has been opened for Kenyans because the door is closed in many places where we can't go because there's no agreement between the countries. Then the jobs are sourced 2 ways. The main way is that governments in those countries are not the ones employing, it is companies. Companies work with agencies. So a company there will decide, I want to get so many skilled nurses to come and work for my hospital. They normally look for an employment agency there that now comes to source them in Kenya. Or they write to an agency in Kenya and ask them whether the jobs can be, where they can get those jobs. And they get what are called demand. They are called demand letters. We say, we've got 500 nursing opportunities, and it's given to this company. And then the company says to NEA, to us, that we've received this order. That's number one. So normally you let the employment agencies do their work. They're the ones who know how to do the interviewing processes, the identification, the follow-up with the police for documents. That's their work. It's not the job of the government to handhold people. Number two, they are what are called government-to-government job, where the government says, as a government, we want to employ for a government institute Kenyans, and we ask the government to seek. So the Ministry of Labor now runs advertisements and welcomes those who are employing the government agency in that country to come here, and we provide for them the Kenyans to be interviewed by them. So that becomes a government-to-government job placement. But those are few and in between. Majority prefer to go through agencies because that's a style that is used all over the world. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Kio.
Give me the mic. Thank you. So, Madam Speaker, before I ask my supplementary, then I would seek your guidance on how to proceed. Because
It's on the earlier one.
Yes, mine is on the earlier one.
Honorable Senators, I'll allow one question since it's the same CS, and that seems to be, most of the members' questions seem to be around that.
Right.
One short question.
Thank you. I will try to make it short. So, Bwana CS, thanks for coming and thanks for your responses to the questions by members. Through you, Madam Speaker, I want to make reference to the response that the CS gave us when we asked about the real numbers and the real people that have benefited from these jobs. Madam Speaker, the caliber of people that are getting these jobs, especially to the Middle East, and I know, Madam Speaker, you must have been at the airport at some point, you see the traffic of young people, going to the Middle East for these jobs. The other kind of people that you would refer to the internet to find out what is required and expected of them. I'm just wondering whether there is no policy document, a government policy document regulating the placement of our young people in jobs outside the country, whether they go there privately or through government arrangements. Isn't there a policy document? In the same manner that a private school in Kenya will be regulated by the same policy that regulates public schools in Kenya. Is there a policy document that regulates the work environment for our people outside this country? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS.
Madam Speaker, job migration has been occurring in our countries from the days of the JF Kennedy airlifts. And Kenyans are free to wake up today, go to internet and see there's an aeronautical job for an engineer at NASA and apply while they're in Kenya. And they are interviewed and they get the job and they're able to leave and go outside the country to work. Normally, we ask Kenyans to let us know. When they go overseas, they go as diaspora. Some go to work, others go as students, finish studying, and they work. We cannot start telling Kenyans that you have to tell us exactly where you are going every time you go to the airport and demanding an invasion of their rights. Well, that is true, though. I think that, and I agree with a good senator from Kitui, that it is important to have a good policy. And this policy has to be anchored in law. Currently, we have a labor migration bill that is alive, and it is in the last stages. And within the bill, there are regulations and directions of how we need to handle people going overseas to work. The sourcing of the jobs, the creation of a data bank so that we know as they go overseas and everything that is being done. I have gone a step further with the National Employment Agency. We are now requiring that any Kenyan hired through our agencies, and which are the majority, that those Kenyans have to get a letter from my ministry which clears them. And the letter says, we have looked at everything, the documents are okay, and we have looked at this agency, this is okay, and we have created a letter. And that letter, we are now tying in our networks. I'm trying to find the right word. We are using our system, and we are matching it with the immigration system, so that as you leave the country, Once we give you that letter, we ensure that your details are captured in the immigration system. So as you leave the country, when you present your passport and they scan it, immediately it comes up there to show that this person is actually going away for employment. So that we know, because some get the demand, they get the letters and they don't leave the country, they change their minds. They get better jobs in the country or they decide otherwise, so that we'll know exactly who is leaving the country, their full names and where they are going. Because the ticket details will be right there, so that we capture it, so we don't have to follow up. And then that information is given to diaspora, so even as they arrive to a particular country, the embassies know we have the following person coming to this country and coming to this city to work here, because we are interlinking the systems. And so that is a process that we'll be announcing tomorrow as part of the reforms that we're undertaking.
Honorable Senators, sorry to disappoint you. We have to move on back to the questioner to ask the supplementary questions because the next CS has to come in. Senator Wafula, please.
Honorable Speaker, I think people are misbehaving in the House, Honorable Speaker. We are not in an auction ring, Honorable Speaker. Chwele especially. I want to ask my good sister to say something. I've delegated one of my supplementary questions to, and the Honorable Speaker has no option. Senator.
Honorable Wafula,
Yes.
you ask your questions or you sit down if you're done.
Now I'm
Thank you very
asking.
much. I've disallowed the delegation.
Honorable Speaker, maybe my question to my good CS, probably through your indulgence, since this matter has taken a long time, I will recommend that we can organize through your office and the State Department for Industry, the one in charge, to have a clear roadmap on how we can clearly handle this matter and set these people free. Thank you.
CS?
Thank you very much, and I do agree with the Honorable Senator David Wakoli. It's important, and I want to give my undertaking that as soon as I get back to the office, I will write a letter to the Minister in charge of Trade and Investment, and we'll make a copy available to you for follow-up, urging that we put together a team to fast-track and be able to monitor these issues. Otherwise, they can fall on the side. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much, CS Labor and Social Services, for staying with us long in this session. I'd like the CS can now be escorted out, and you can invite the CS for roads and transport to come in. Thank you. this minister there, you Honorable Senators, the Honorable CS for Roads and Transport has come in, so we will move on to the next session. And the first question is by Senator Mofaya. Question 62.
I have the question, Madam Speaker. That is Question number 62, whereby I'm seeking from the Cabinet Secretary to know the status update of the payment of compensation to owners of the parcels of land acquired for construction of the St. Mary Kinoro Yanchuku Bawari Road in Tharaka Nithi County. And why has there been a delay in compensating some of the landowners, and could the Cabinet Secretary state when the affected landowners will be paid? 3, what measures has the ministry put in place to guarantee timely compensation of individuals affected by road construction projects in the future? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sorry, CS?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Happy to be here this morning or this afternoon, still morning, to continue providing responses to the various questions. Honorable Chair, I appear before Senate this morning to respond to 7 questions, and I would like to request, even as I respond to the specific question by Senator Mwenda, to give a background on an overarching challenge which will kind of touch on all the 7 questions, and then I will specifically respond to the question by Mofaya, Senator. Honorable Speaker, I note that all the 7 questions for which we have prepared responses today relate to roads and touch on finances for roads. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I would request to share important...
Just hold on, the technical team, what's happening with the mic? Is it okay?
Thank you. So, Honorable Speaker, I would wish to request to share important cross-cutting information affecting the road subsector. The information would likely be useful during follow-up discussion and questions, which may, again, we seem to...
Technical team, what's happening? Why do we have an echo?
Let's try again. Maybe it's... Are we okay now?
A technical team, are you doing something about this? Are we okay now? Proceed, CS.
So, Honorable Speaker, sorry about that. I was saying I would like to request to really share some...
The echo is still there. Sergeant at Arms, please. Can we do... CS, can you just retreat for 3 minutes so that we just get them to organize this?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker and members. I was basically giving a background on Speaker, the background information that I was requesting to share. It looks like we are not getting over it. Maybe.
If you pull it and hold it in your hands, might it help? CS, please take your seat. We'll try and sort it out. CS, you can resume.
Thank you. Thank you for, and sorry about that. So, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, I was basically saying that I would like to request to share some important cross-cutting information affecting the road subsector. The information will likely be useful during follow-up discussions which may arise after the substantive answers given to each road-related question. The information I'm going to share, Honorable Chair, broadly is categorized in two parts, namely road maintenance and road development. Allow me, Chair, Honorable Members, to start with road maintenance. The total value of public roads assets countrywide has been established by the Road Subsector Investment Program 2023.
Honorable Senator, Honorable CS, just procedurally, are you responding to all the questions, or do you want to respond to the question of the senator that has asked the question? Because the standing orders require that you respond to the questions that have been asked. So I appreciate what you're speaking about in terms of the general terms, but you want to make reference to say if you want to respond to issues in this, the other question, I think it will be good to have those senators here so that we make reference to that. But the standing orders require that you respond to each question as asked by the senator. Yes, Senator Kinyua.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise because I had heard, like the CS said, he was laying foundation so that he can answer the question, and I was following. So I wanted maybe if we can get the generally, because all questions are related, what I heard him say.
Senator Kinyua, you will let the Speaker guide on this session. So procedurally, the standing orders require that the CS will respond to each question as raised by each senator. I am asking the CS to, because he started generally, to indicate whether his general remarks are intended to provide a cross-cutting response or to questions, this, that, and the other. And hopefully we have all the senators who are asking their questions in the House. I just asked that, and I would like you to allow the CS to respond, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll respond to all the questions specifically as they are put before the House this morning. So I'll be responding to each question specifically. I was giving background cross-cutting information so that I may not have to repeat every time for all the questions.
So what we are getting is that on broad information, the CS is responding by first giving the general information that will inform all questions. So I will allow that. And then you will move on to the specific question by Senator Moffat.
Thank you, Chair. So as basically putting the fundamentals that the total value of the public road asset countrywide has been established by the Road Sector Investment Program 2023-2027 to be at 4 trillion Kenya shillings today, making it one of the biggest public investments in Kenya. This massive investment, Chair, honorable members, in the road sector asset, which has been built up painstakingly over the years, has been diligently maintained, protected, and preserved to ensure it preserves the citizens well, or it serves the citizens well while achieving maximum service life, return on investment, and value for money. The Road Maintenance Levy Fund was established in 1993 to provide sustainable resource for the required road maintenance and has since been adjusted from time to time in accordance with needs. The last adjustment was in 2016, the year 2016, 8 years ago, when the fuel levy was set at 18 shillings per litre. However, by 2024, an unsustainably large financing gap had emerged between the cost of essential road maintenance and the resource collected from the levy, from the 18 shillings levy. By way of example, Honorable Chair, members, from the 2024-25 financial year, the cost of essential road maintenance activities for national roads is Kenya shillings 157 billion. That is what we need annually. However, the anticipated fuel levy collection for the same financial year was only 79 billion, leaving a deficit of 78 billion Kenya shillings. The causes and drivers of this maintenance fund cap are grouped for convenience into 3 categories, namely changes in the road network in terms of length, macroeconomics factors, maintenance needs of the road network. Allow me to briefly describe each of the causes in a little more detail. The contributions to the financing gap which are related to the changes in the road network include increase in the total road network length from 161,000 kilometers in 2016 to about 239,000 in 2024. Growth in the length of paved road network by 47% between 2016 and 24, with 25,000 kilometers paved as of 2024. An aging road network, the existence of a large backlog in road maintenance, including on-carer paved roads which have lacked earmarked maintenance funding and are therefore referred, as you have heard many times, as orphaned roads. Increased urbanization and the need for more maintenance in the urban environment, increased traffic growth, and the climate change that we have all witnessed in the various El Ninos and droughts. The contributors to the financing gap, which are related to macroeconomics factors, include stagnation of the road maintenance levy, like I've mentioned, at 18 shillings for the last 8 years, decline of road maintenance levy due to real-time value or due to inflation, and we don't have the inflationary buildup, rising cost of road works over the time due to inflation. The contributor to the financing gap, honorable members, Chair, which is related to the maintenance need of the road network, includes anticipated adverse trends in the roughness indices for the road network if the available resources for maintenance do not increase. Roughness index, chair members, is a technical term used internationally within road sector and is a well-known measure of road condition. Honorable Speaker, because of the above-mentioned funding gap in road maintenance, my ministry has not been able to perform all the required maintenance. Indeed, in the financial year just ended, the road agencies for the first time ever were forced to suspend award of a number of already tendered maintenance activities due to lack of budget. Following from the above situation, a proposal for review of the road maintenance levy by 7 shillings from 18 to 25 litres was formulated several months ago to partially fill the maintenance gap. On Monday, 8th July 2024, public participation was held countrywide to discuss the proposal for review of the fuel levy, and from the views received, 2 themes stood out. Firstly, many Kenyans were worried that an increase in the levy might result in a rise in the cost of living. Secondly, most Kenyans expected and indeed require that the significant gains made in the condition and extent of the road network at great cost to Kenyans should not be allowed to fall into a state of disrepair and dilapidation for want of timely maintenance and resources. Honorable Speaker, this feedback from public participation was received more so in the context of recent events. The ministry was able to revert and consult intensively and subsequently came up with a way forward that closely reflected the will and well-being of the people, including their wish to be served by a properly functioning road network without increasing pump price for fuel and driving up the cost of living. Honorable Speaker, I would not be exaggerating to say that the recent adjustment in the fuel levy rates was a critical, vital, and urgent step without which the heavy investment of recent years in building new roads would ultimately prove to be largely in vain. As part of the drive to secure adequate road maintenance resources and direct them towards where they are most needed, the ministry, through the appropriate channels and procedures, will be proposing consideration of a legislative adjustment so that a certain portion of the fuel levy, which is earmarked for rural roads, can be ring-fenced and directly prioritized by KERA for maintenance and maintenance of paved and other connector rural roads. We believe, honorable members, that the proposed refinement to the management of road maintenance fund for rural roads should it find favor and approval through the relevant procedures will be the key to a material improvement in the maintenance of particularly paved rural roads. That was on the maintenance. On the development, Honorable Chair, honorable members, allow me to turn to, in March this year, this distinguished House was appraised by my predecessor about the situation at the time with regard to the development vote. It was reported that the pending bills on various projects as at 31st December 2023 was at 162 billion Kenya shillings. The updated pending bills as of June 30th, 2024 stood at 165 billion Kenya shillings. The consequences of the road project funding gap, which have been well noted by members of this House who are very well informed on the status of road projects in their respective regions. Most projects funded under the development vote are progressing much slower than they ought to be and have significant payment arrears which have built up from the year 2020 or even earlier. And while the now nullified Finance Bill 2024 had put in place substantive measures to begin to remedy the situation, we are fully cognizant of the new realities and are working closely with the National Treasury to ensure that impactful budgetary allocations are retained going forward. The main challenge, honorable members, Chair, with roads development is budget inadequacy. The average net GOK development budget ceiling in recent years averaged 55 billion Kenya shillings. As of 30th June 2024, the outstanding commitments on contracted road projects amounted to approximately 700 billion, including an outstanding bill portfolio, like I've mentioned, in pending bills of 165 billion. Therefore, with the current average net GOK annual budget ceiling allocation of 55 billion, the committed road projects would take approximately 15 years to complete. The low annual net GOK ceiling of 55 billion, honorable members, also results in thin spread of budgetary allocation to projects, which results in various negative consequences. With that background, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to go through that background, I now wish to turn to the question raised by Honorable Senator for Tharaka Nithi, Mwenda Kadhaya Mofaya. Honorable Speaker, Gataya.
More fire.
Thank you for that clarification.
Proceed,
Chair. Let me beg to respond. The total award for the compensation of the owners of the parcels of land acquired for construction of this particular road, St. Mary's, Kinoro, Kianjuku, Bogori Road, was 115 million Kenya shillings, 115 to be more specific, 662,835. The Kenya Rural Road Authority, KERA, received 28,999,599 from the National Treasury and dispersed the money to the National Land Commission on 12th October 2023, and we should, Speaker, that amount, the 28.9 million received for this specific road project, was paid out on a priority basis starting from kilometer 0, where the road starts, which explains why some landowners have not been compensated while others have. However, the remaining balance of 86.6 million will be paid to the remaining landowners as soon as the funds are received from the National Treasury. Cognizance of my background statement, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, will work closely with the National Treasury to ensure that budgetary provision and cash flow releases for the budget ceiling already provided, as soon as provided, we should be able to continue the compensation. The ministry will coordinate closely, like I've just said, with the National Land Commission to submit timely data of project-affected person to the National Treasury to enable the planning of budgeted amounts for that compensation. Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, thank you.
Is there a senator who has a specific follow-up question on the specific questions asked by Senator Mofaya? If not, I would request that Senator Mofaya, you ask your supplementary questions to your question.
You know, I have listened to the background, which has been prosecuted by the CS. And that background has been with us for quite some time. And I think, Madam Speaker, you know that when funds will be available, it's a very common phrase in the government circles. Madam Speaker, those people have waited for decades. So people lost their land. You know, there have been promises over promises that money will be available at this particular time. But those people, Madam Speaker, are running out of patience. And I think the CS should state categorically when these people are likely to get their dues. Because, Madam Speaker, they have matched to the relevant departments, the relevant ministries, and the answer is they will be paid when the money will be available. That is an answer, Honorable Madam Speaker, that is not bankable. And I cannot go back to the people and tell them that money will be been paid when money will be available. So I don't know what measures is the CS taking to make sure that those people are compensated. You know, those are poor people, Madam Speaker. They are people who have lost their land. They are just commoners in the village. And they have been waiting for that money for the last almost 10 years or so. So I think it's important that the CS comes out clearly and assures this House there is any measure which is supposed to be put in place to expedite this process, that these people get their dues as required.
CS?
Thank you for the supplementary question, Speaker, Honorable Speaker. I take note of Senator Mwenda's supplementary question and wish to confirm, Honorable Chair, that we will pay attention and provide priority to the ongoing projects. Very importantly, when there is a budget ceiling and a budget which we do work together between the National Treasury, Parliament, and the Ministry. And having given the background of the 2024-25 Finance Bill, which did provide for a lot of these budgetary requirements, Honorable Chair, I want to confirm that we'll closely pay attention, particularly to the compensation to the project-affected persons. I did give the background on the 7 shillings road maintenance levy additional funds, which we are working on a framework of ensuring that we deploy that prudently to be able to address some of these challenges, and particularly the project-affected persons, because even if we were to put it to start the construction of the road and the project-affected persons on the corridor have not been compensated, it is all in vain. So let me confirm, Chair, that I'll pay attention to the ongoing projects, particularly compensation of the project-affected persons, as we work through the additional road maintenance levy. We are working on a framework of securitization and seeing whether, like I said during my confirmation hearing, whether we can get a bullet payment and sort out all the outstanding pending bills. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Senator Mofaya?
Seriously, I hope now that he's trying to run the ropes in the ministry, then I'm going to take his one seriously. Maybe in the next 3 months or so, I think I'm going to remind him. Actually, I will be visiting in office soon to make sure that those people are compensated, because it's a matter that has been in this out for almost 2 years now, right? And those people have been waiting, trying to see when their money is likely to be paid. So, Madam Speaker, the CS will be reminding you now and then to make sure that those people get their money. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I seek your indulgence and advice, because looking at the questions that are being asked, they are somehow related. So instead of asking supplementary question on each question, maybe if you allow those who are listed here to ask all the questions, then later on we can come in with supplementary questions. Because I can see what Senator Gatai has asked is almost the same thing Senator Boni Kalwale will ask. So that we can have supplementary questions that are somehow combined.
Well, thank you, Senator Thangwa. I think what I had thought, that's why I said we will only allow you to ask if you have one on that specific issue. But what I'd like us to do is go through the questions, and then we will allow the rest of the members to ask the questions they have to the CS. So, Senator Khalwale. DS.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your guidance. But specifically, I have an issue on this particular road because it traverses Meru County.
Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is still on this same road. This section now, which is St. Mary's Kinoro, is in Meru County. And I am aware about the compensations, they have not been done. But more importantly, Mr. CS, Honorable CS, is the state of that road. Because in Meru County I come from, we are losing a lot of resource, as in loans. Because Mr. CS, like this Kinoro, St. Mary's Kinoro Road is a paved road, but very dilapidated, and there is no maintenance on that road. There is a lot of potholes, lack of drainage on that section. So we are losing another very important resource from Chogolia, which is traversing almost 6 constituencies from Chogolia, which passes through Mara constituency, South Imenti, Central Imenti, up to North Imenti. This is Chogolia, Marimba, Meru Town Road. Has the same problem, Madam Speaker. Don't cut me short, Madam Speaker. This is very important and it is right in my heart, Madam Speaker. So I'm kindly requesting whether maybe as you look for resources, whether you can be able to allocate some resources, which I've really canvassed even with the ministry, the carer, and all these people. They are aware of that problem. Mr. CS, some of us even getting to our homes is a problem because the county governments are not working for us. So even drones reading to our villages, even to my house. I want to declare that 2 weeks ago, I paid some people, iron and grinder to do my road. As a senator for Meru, I was doing it when I was a member of parliament. But people in the village are crying, why you are very senior as a senator, you can't do the road nowadays. So I was forced to hire a grinder to do that particular road to my house. And this is in Lekon because I've canvassed this in all the offices. They are aware of the problems you have in that county. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator, CS, I suggest you note that down. Once we finish the other questions, ensure to respond to Senator Kathuri's question. Senator Halwale, are you ready?
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I rise to ask question number 65 on the order paper, that A, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of landowners who granted way leave for the upgrading to bitumen standard of the Shikalagala-Butere Road and indicate the respective amounts due as compensation to each? B, why has the government not yet paid out compensation to the said individuals years after the project was completed, and could the Cabinet Secretary indicate the timelines for the same?
CS.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me go straight to the responses of those two questions. I wish, Chair, Honorable members, to state that a total of 326 landowners were listed for acquisition under the Gazette notice I have listed in the response number 10918 of 22nd December 2020 for the project of upgrading the Sigalagala Musoli Sabatia Butere Road to bitumen standard. The notice detailed the individual identified persons or affected persons by the project and the indicative acreage size for acquisition, a copy of the Gazette notice which we attached in the response. The National Land Commission, Honorable Chair, which is mandated to determine individual entitlements in respect of land acquisition, is yet to issue the schedule of awards for this project. But Honorable Chair, the time lapse is big. Allow me to go back and find out why the National Land Commission has not responded to date and then be able to follow up because December 2020 from the time we gazetted to date is really a long time. On the second question, as a ministry, we empathize with the project affected persons following the inordinate delay in processing their compensation. The delay is due to the extended duration required to process the matter in consultation with NLC. Honorable Chair, the Ministry through KERA has been in constant communication with NLC on this matter. This began with the gazettement of the affected parcel via the Gazette notice of 7 July 2017, number 6472, followed by a Gazette notice number 10918, which I did mention on the first question of 22nd December 2020, which published the corrections to the first notice and indicated dates for conducting inquiries by NLC. The Ministry facilitated these processes in full and was thus awaiting issuance of award letters to the project-affected persons. And the award schedule to KERA detailing compensation amounts informed the provision of funds for the same. KERA sent reminders to the Commission via a letter of 27th November. I've given the reference, 2023, and another letter of 15 April 2024. Again, the reference is there, and it is annexed. The National Land Commission